He said at the time, when I walked the streets of Manchester, off the road, and an agent called anti-slave society.
Hi, my name is Jeff Brown. I want to just quickly talk about my favourite painting in the City Art Gallery. It's a portrait. It's a portrait of a man called Ira Aldridge. Ira Aldridge was the first black person to play Othello on stage in Britain. And his portrait was the very first painting that was bought by what becomes the City Art Gallery, bought in 1825. Aldridge actually started his career playing Othello in London, and the racism in the theatre actually caused him to leave London and come to Manchester, and he made his reputation as a great actor playing Othello and many other roles in Manchester. And that's something which I think we can be proud of.
You look around Manchester, and all of these statues that have been erected have been about people and their profit. This is all of it. Manchester is built on the slave trade. Manchester is built on the oppression of working class people. Let's be very clear about this. We are standard to racism. We do take the knee across the city. And I remember we were doing it on Oxford Road, and someone said to me, one of the students at the university said, well, is there a particular building that we should pick, you know, that symbolises the oppression of black people? And I was like, well, it's a bit difficult because so much of Manchester is built on the back of slavery. This is the thing that they celebrate. This is why it's so important for us to know that history and to stand up against it. Because actually, when you erect statues that are, you know, of men that profited through slavery, what you're saying is you look up to that past, you celebrate that past, and that's why I think the Black Lives Movement has been so important and campaigning about pulling these statues down. Because actually it's not something we should celebrate. It's not something that we should honour, and I think it's absolutely disgraceful that Boris Johnson said what he said about, you know, rule Britannia? Does he not know his own history? And if he does know it, actually just goes to show he doesn't care. He doesn't care about the struggle of black people. And I want to say this as well. You know, I absolutely love the slogan, system change, not climate change, because actually that's exactly what we need. And that's exactly the same argument that we've got in the Black Lives Matter. That's the same cause that we're fighting for. We recognise to end racism we need a system change, because actually the very system that allows for climate change is the very same system that allows black men to be shot with impunity on the streets of America. It's the very same system that allows black people in Britain to die from COVID disproportionately. It's all connected. It's about the fact that they put profit before our lives. It's about the fact that they want us to blame each other so that we don't stand together and unite and push them back and change the world and fight for a better world, because that's what this is about. And that's why I'm so glad that Stand Up to Racism, that we're here supporting Next Door, and that actually Black Lives Matter, climate change, all of it is connected, and we fight together and we build a movement of unity and solidarity. So thank you very much.
Yeah. I wasn't going to speak here, but I am going to. And the main reason is because of my mum. If you look at my t-shirt, my mum came over here in the late 50s from Ireland, from a tiny little farm. She was the youngest of 7 daughters. My dad was so annoyed when she was born, she never even got a birth certificate. And when she came over here and went looking for places to rent, it was no blacks, no dogs, no Irish. And we've done a lot of positive things today. But in Ireland especially, this woman is known as the famine queen. There were a lot of famines all over the world during the Victorian era. I've said before, I'm an economist, but one of my favourite economists is a guy called Amartya Sen from India. He wrote a book all about famines, and he worked it out. The worst one per head of population ever in the history in the world happened in Ireland. More people died in Bengal, that's true. In Ireland, there were 8 million people in Ireland in the 1840s. Right now, there's only about 4 million people. So yeah, Queen Victoria, the famine queen, oversaw the death of around 1 million people in Ireland. Their empire, which Boris Johnson says we should be proud of, covered about a quarter of the world's population. And imperial policies towards lesser breeds, as they said, resulted in tens of millions of deaths just in India. The history of empire is the history of human misery. So I'm sorry for speaking again, but if somebody's filming this, I want it, and I want to send it to all my family in Ireland.
I'll read it.
And if you're from India,
I did my dissertation on this stuff.
we remember you as well. And if you're from Africa, we remember you as well. And yeah, British finance was all over South America as well. There was a lot of misery caused during the Victorian era, and I think we should remember it. Thank you. Yeah. Right, we're building up to the big one. But just there is the statue of James Watt.
Yeah, I like that.
He's very well known, we all learn in school though, yeah. He invented the steam engine.
Nice,
Well, Eh?
Okay.
Oh, sorry, you perfected it. I've got a history teacher here.
Reminds me where your master's school.
James Watt, yeah. But what else did he do? Let's go and find out.
Okay, so James Watt, made so much money from the plantation economy in the West Indies, also from the slave trade as well. So that's why we're kind of focusing on James Watt. There's so many examples of James Watt around the UK. And he actually gave a massive donation to the University of Glasgow as well. So the University of Glasgow was also founded on the legacy and the wealth of James Watt. So this is why we have to focus on James Watt.
Take it away, Sammy.
Everyone, my name is Sami Pinabasi. I'm an historian based at MMU and University of Manchester, and I'm also part of the Repeal Peel campaign based in Manchester. So we started our campaign to get rid of Robert Peel and other statues back in June, yet Manchester City Council have been quiet for too long. We are not going anywhere and we are stepping up our campaign. My focus is not on what Peel thought or what he said, but what he did. In the case of Peel, such men were towering figures in parliamentary politics. Peel wielded his power and influence as an MP to try and stop the emancipation of slaves throughout the British West Indies. He was pro-slavery. In 21st century society, despite women, ethnic minorities and the poor having the vote, they continue to live in the symbolic landscape that erases from sight and sound the vast majority who lived and died on the underside of empire. This presents serious issues about the issues of heritage in post-colonial Britain. I've been accused of wanting to change history. This is not true. I am passionate about history and I am passionate about teaching history. I am doing this to show my students and other young people that using democracy and proper channels, that meaningful and effective change can happen, and is possible. This is why these statues have to come down. If this was a few years ago, before the start of this new civil rights era, then a plaque would have been acceptable. However, the truth is, as a society, we have not reckoned with our history. The Black Lives Matter movement is about actions, not words. We have to think about our cities and public spaces that have been curated and have served the privileged few. These statues convey the values and ideas of 19th century elites. They are not our values. They do not represent the values of the majority of people living in Manchester today. Robert Peel was from Manchester. I am also from Manchester. Peel's wealth was derived from the cotton spinning industry. The cotton was picked by slaves throughout the 13 colonies, the United States and the British West Indies. He inherited his wealth from his father, who was also pro-slavery. His father circulated a pro-slavery petition in 1806. He was also, like his son, a religious bigot and a racist. The wealth that Robert Peel Jr. inherited allowed him to purchase his first seat in Parliament in Cashel, Tipperary, Ireland in 1809. Peel was fixated with issues of reputation, consistency, honour and posthumous judgment. But these remained his only hope of future salvation. Peel did not merely hope for his reward in heaven, but in history. He had one eye on history, but we have our eyes, both our eyes, on the past, present and future. He knew his legacy was tarnished. This is why his statue and others must come down. Peel also founded the police in 1829. The Peelian principles on their own are sound principles, yet Peel did not apply those principles himself when he was Prime Minister throughout the British Empire in Ireland, India, Australia and beyond. One of the results of this is an increasing uncertainty about what we mean by space and how we relate to it. It is not simply a question of the unequal distribution of public space that some people, such as Robert Peel, have domination over more than others, and that those who defend these statues have more control than others. It is the control of some groups that can actively weaken other people. This is why the establishment is so protective over these racist statues. They are totemic representations of the power, racism and bigotry of the establishment itself. The fact that Robert Peel stands so prominently in Manchester is a way of constructing a counterposition between us and them. Robert Peel's statue is defined by quite clearly defined by conflict, not only over colonial, imperial and racist conflict, but a conflict over what our past has been and the nature of heritage itself. Conflict over what should be our present development, conflict over what could be our future. Civic spaces and sculpture were tools through which 19th and 20th century elites sought to command the values of the living and the unborn. In their rehearsal of the worldview of winners, they did not just obliterate the losers, they rehearsed permanently the violence of domination. There are at least 9 statues of Robert Peel throughout the UK. This tells us of the power and influence that he exerted and that his legacy still projects to this day. So I'd like to quote the historian Richard Drayton, who said that the city belongs to the present. The retrogressive temporality of our moment is already under challenge throughout the world. There is a legitimate case for negotiating the idea of heritage, so that it means a claim to many sides past and not just a bondage to that claim on the future made by those who once enjoyed the privileges of domination. Heritage requires a perpetual attention to the most inclusive view of citizenship and cosmopolitan inclusion. Peel was what we would call today a white supremacist. He believed in the supremacy of white men, and these statues are totemic of the values they represent: racism, bigotry and oppression. They reflect the worst values that still exist in society today, sadly. Many of these people who are outraged by this movement to reclaim our public spaces did not take much notice of these statues before, so why are they so concerned now? I have been called a statue terrorist. Okay, I don't mind that actually, because if you're a bronzed, bigoted pigeon magnet, then yes, I'm going to terrorise you. These statues will come down eventually. Future generations will study this moment and will know that we all took decisive action. So finally, to quote John Lewis, we must use our time and our space on this planet that we call Earth to make a lasting contribution, to leave it a little better than we found it. And now, that need is greater than ever before. And if not us, then who? If not now, then when? So, thank you. Also, follow our campaign @Peel on Twitter.
Fantastic. We should celebrate this. The coming down of the statue in Bristol. We should celebrate the fact that actually people, black and white, young and old, took to the streets and actually made history. And I think all of us here celebrated that moment in Bristol. And I think if they can do it in Bristol, we can do it anywhere. And I just want to say that, you know, we have achieved so much already, and no one ever talks about what we've achieved. But actually, Black Lives Matter have achieved real change in society. The fact that we're actually talking about these statues, the fact that we are campaigning to have them taken down. People may or may not know this. That statue in Bristol came down, but there had been a campaign for years. There have been meetings, there have been petitions, there have been letter writing. And then people took to the streets and they achieved something that we weren't able to achieve over years of campaigning. And that's what this movement has already achieved. The fact that we talk about it and we feel we can make change. And XR have done exactly the same. I really do believe this. The fact that we are talking about climate change and system change. And it's a conversation that's been happening out in the open. It's not just like a fringe group anymore. It's mainstream discussions people are having about system change. I just want to say, these are our success stories and we don't hear enough about it and we just celebrate it. And that, I think, is what we should take away from this and the work that we're going to do in the coming weeks. We have achieved so much, but we've achieved so much more. We are changing and we are winning. So I just wanted to say that before I know, yeah. I also want to say, there's always so much going on, isn't it? Sometimes you forget about what we've achieved and our successes. We're so busy fighting for the next thing, and that's what we should, because there is so much to fight for. But while we're at it, I think we should always remember what we've already achieved. So well done to everybody here. And I hope you all come out in the following actions as well. We're back out. XR are going to back out on the streets of 1st of September. So please, I know Stand Up to Racism, we're going to be out as well joining them. So all of you, please get the word out. Let's keep to the streets and let's really have some change. Because actually, that is what this is about. Real movement, real change. This isn't just a moment of anger. This is building a mass movement that is actually going to deliver on change. And you know, Stand Up to Racism, we're going to be out and use this on the community. We're going to carry on being out until we get some change, just as you are as XR. And I just want to announce that on the 11th of September, that's the day that the 4 police officers that took the line with George Floyd are going to be having their court hearing. We're going to be out on St. Peter's Square at 6 p.m. I want to invite you all to come, take the knee and remember George Floyd and say his name, because let's be quite honest, there are hundreds of men that have been killed in impunity in the US, and we don't say their names, we don't even hear their names, and no police officer ever been held account. This is the first time that we get these 4 officers in court, and that's happened because of the mass movement of people like yourselves that have come out and taken to the street. So please come, continue building the movement and come and join us. Now I just want to read out this poem, sorry, and it's by Love City. It's called Let There Be Peace. Let there be peace. So clouds blow away like albatross. The skeletons stop cupboards. So war correspondents become household presenters. The magpies bring back lost property. Children, engagement rings, broken things. Let there be peace. So storms can go out to sea to be angry and return to me calm. So the broken can rise up and dance in the hospital. Then the aged Ethiopian man in the grey block of flats peered through his window to see Addis before him. So his thrilled, outstretched arms become afraid. For his dreams, let there be peace. Let tears evaporate to form clouds, cleanse themselves, and fall into reservoirs of drinking water. Their harsh memories burst into fireworks that melt in the dark pupils of the child's eyes and disappear like shoals of silver darted fish. And let the waves reach the shore with a
If the art gallery's got to do.
Yeah, I've just like misfired.